The Success in South Florida podcast is brought to you by the team at Rawson Law Firm. If you need DUI or criminal defense representation, call the Rawson Law Firm at 754-206-6200 or check the description of today's episode for more contact information. The Rawson Law Firm, helping good people when bad things happen so they can achieve their best futures.
Welcome to Success in South Florida, featuring interviews with entrepreneurs, leaders, and other movers and shakers across South Florida to find out how they're doing their part to enhance the local community. Your host is Adam Rawson, the founder and CEO of the Rawson Law Firm. Adam's an award-winning attorney, former prosecutor, and a lifelong South Florida resident. He became an attorney because he believes in helping those in need and in crafting lifelong relationships in the community. This podcast is an extension of that mission. Let's get to today's interview. Here's Adam Rawson.
Welcome back to the Success in South Florida podcast. I'm your host, Adam Rawson, and on today's episode, we have a very special guest, a local celebrity, Jonathan Zaslow, sports radio, big time here in South Florida. And I've known Zaslow since college, since our UF days, so over 20 years. And he got his start in radio, worked with Levitard, and had his own show and Miami Heat announcer, and I'll let him, really just take it from there. Great to have you on the show, Zaslow.
It's good to see you. I'm glad you asked me to do this. It's funny. I got a text from Tessa, a couple of weeks ago, and Adam Rawson is requesting you to appear on the podcast. I go, for Adam Rawson, I will do this. Yes, nice. Let's do it. That is exciting. It's good to see you. It's been a long time, and that's right. Of course, I know. From college. I was living right underneath you in what was your senior year, but my junior year, because I essentially had to make up credits since I transferred to UF. So, so I lived underneath you for that final year.
Yeah, we had some good times there in Campus Lodge, right? Got to give Sea Lodge the shout out.
Yes, I had such a great time at UF. It was a really cool experience for me.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'd love it. Actually, I'm going back this fall with my wife and two sons. My kids are younger than yours, so I have a 3.5-year-old and a 5-month-old. Whew. And so, I enjoyed a lot more over the last 10 years than you probably did. Oof. But I'm paying for it now. But it's great, and I can't wait to take them to Gainesville and show them everything.
Have you been back a bunch? I've only been back, I think, twice.
So the first 10 years, yes. The last 10 years, not as much. I think the last time I've been was maybe 7-8 years ago. So I'm very excited just to bring them. And of course, it's a different trip now than it was when I was 25 or 30. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited. And I want to make it as they get older, an annual tradition.
I loved my time there. Like I said, it was a cool experience for me because I transferred, and the school that I came from, UCF, was such a different experience than Gainesville, especially at the time. I mean, UCF has grown so much, but it was right at the start of when it was getting attention was when I was there. So transferring to UF was such a unique experience for me. I really got to experience two different atmospheres, two different schools. I loved Florida.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing like going to UF. Whether you like whether you're a Gator fan or not, still, it's nothing like going to UF.
Yeah.
But all right. So Zaslow, so here I am, long time ago, and maybe I think I'm 3 years out from undergrad. I'm studying for the bar exam. I remember I took the bar exam coursework at St. Thomas, so like Opelika, and I'm driving around there listening to sports radio, and all of a sudden I go, "Oh, holy cow! Like Zaslow's on the show on Levitard." Wow! So first of all, talk me through that. How young kid gets in and gets on the Levitard show.
I know a lot of people don't want to hear it when they ask, "Hey, how did you get your start in radio or TV, especially sports, whatever it was?" They don't like to hear it when I say this, but it is the truth. It was right place, right time for me. It really was. I got really lucky. A lot of it has to do with who you know and all that stuff, but I was so right place, right time because my final 2 credits, it ended up being that I needed to graduate from UF. I walked early. I walked in May, but then my final 2 credits were my internship in the summer. And I did my internship down here. So this is summer of 04. All right.
Okay.
So you've already been out of school for a year now. So this is summer of 04. And I'm doing my final 2 credits at internship at NBC6 here, WTVJ. Okay, fine. And I really don't know what I'm going to do after that. All right.
Like most people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so luckily, the main sports anchor at NBC6 at the time was a guy called Joe Rose, who, of course, had been doing mornings on 560 WQAM for many years. He's a former Dolphin, and he's been on television forever. So toward the end of my internship, my plan was I was just going to keep showing up. I didn't know what else to do. And maybe they would give me a job. I was just going to keep showing up. And Joe said to me, he took a liking to me, I guess. And he said, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" Like, he knew the deal. And I was like, "Yes, of course I'm looking for a job." And I set it up like this on purpose, where I was going to do that internship at the very end, because if I do this internship after year 3 and then I get offered a job, it's like, yeah, I got another year of school, So
and there's a long runway, right? They may forget about you. There's a lot of things that can happen over that time.
So I did it purposely. So if someone offers me a job, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. So that was cool. So he asked me, are you looking for a job? I go, yes. He goes, well, there's this new radio station called 790 The Ticket that is starting in September. So I'm doing my internship in summer. It's ending September. This brand new radio station is starting in South Florida, and they're obviously hiring. And so, Joe said, here, call this guy. This guy's name is John Wiener. Call this guy and tell him I said to hire you. And little do I know, all right, I call this John Wiener. Well, John Wiener is Stugatz.
Right.
And so I call him and I go in for an interview, and they hire me right there on the spot. So I ended up being one of like 5 original employees of 790 The Ticket. So I started like the week before they went on air. So like legit original employee. And actually the way that it worked out when I was let go 6 months ago, I was literally there from start to finish of 790 The Ticket, because they ended 790 The Ticket. That's why I ended up losing my job. So I was there start to finish, which I'm super proud of. But that's what happened. So like I got lucky with all the timing of it. And because I was there from the ground floor, like they needed guys to do air shifts like on the weekends, It's like, hey, Zaslow, you think you could do a show? I'm like, yeah. And so I was getting run in a major market on a sports station, which would never have happened in any other major market. They're going to put someone with no experience on the air. So I got really lucky.
But I think that's what it's all about is, and look, I mean, I'm a big believer as I've gotten older in the law of attraction, right? Manifesting certain things and just good karma, right? What's the saying about luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? And kind of, big in the sports world and business world. But I mean, that's, I think, what it's all about is just having an opportunity, taking it and seizing it. What if you didn't want to put yourself out there? What if you did the internship a year before? What if, I mean, there's a lot of different things. And yeah, for you to be in Florida, in South Florida, on the radio at what, 20, 22, 23 years old.
In a major market.
Right. Is incredible.
Like most people have to go, most guys like me have to go live in Topeka and be on the air there for 3 years, or, go to Des Moines and be on the air there for a few years. Like I was getting my reps in the 13th largest market in the country. And by the way, in the city that I grew up in, rooting for all the teams that I love.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really lucky in that regard. And so that's how I met those guys with, the Levitard show, because back then they were local, they were on this local station, and I became tight with all those guys, and I'm still tight with all those guys.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I know. I just can't believe I'm going to my bar prep class and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, good for Zaslow.
Yeah. Everyone was like, yeah, you're doing like super serious lawyer stuff, which is a really serious and important job. And I was like in the toy department, right after school. It was, and everyone was jealous. I'm like, you guys got good jobs too. Like, it's okay.
Right. Well, that's everybody's dream. You get to get paid to talk about sports, right?
Yeah.
And everything else that we did all day, every day with 3 TVs in everybody's apartment.
Well, and the funny thing was too, especially for, my close friends up there in UF, it was always a running joke when I got this job that I'm the one who knew and cared the least about sports. Like they all knew and loved it so much more than I. So it was always a running joke.
Right.
Like it would be Saturday. It would be Saturday afternoon, and is playing FSU, which is obviously a really big deal. And we're up there in school in Campus Lodge, and the game started at noon. And I rolled out of bed at 2 p.m. And I just walked into the living area. Hey, what's the score? Like
right.
It was always a running joke.
I'll start watching the fourth quarter, guys. Let me know when it gets interesting.
Right. I was into it the least of everyone, so they were all jealous.
Right. And so when you're stumbling into this dream job so young, did you even care what you were getting paid? I mean, how is that as far as, just that equation of like, hey, I get to be paid to do this?
No, I was just I want to be hired, and then they put me on salary right away, so I get benefits and all of that. So I didn't expect that, but it's like, and so I'm making like $35,000. To me, it was like 35. That sounds like a lot of money to me.
I'm rich.
$35,000. So the money was fine, but I got engaged at a young age. I think I was 26 when I got engaged, and I had my first kid when I was 27 or 28. I think 28. So at that point, when you're between 26 and 28 years old, and you're not making real money, then I started to care. So I didn't care at the start about the money. Single, no responsibility Zaslow is doing just fine making $35,000.
Right.
But when I'm 26, 27, 28 years old, that started to get a little bit more difficult. So, but I was lucky that, again, there was a slot opened up in the mornings. I was doing evenings. I had my own show every night, 7 p.m. Right. A slot opened up in the mornings. This is like circa 2012 at this point. And they wanted me to give it a go. And I ended up getting that job. And so that's when I was able to start to make, some money where I could actually support a family. So it took a little bit of time. Right.
Well, and that's the thing. I remember, because I was a high school basketball coach. My second year of law school, I hated law school so much. So my first summer, I said, I need to do something. So I became a high school basketball coach and hustled my way into that and continued with law school. But I remember driving home after games and stuff and just listening to you then when you had your own show. And then I'm like, wow, wait a minute. He's got mornings. This is fantastic.
It was so fun too, because I was able to just try. I was on at night. I was by myself, and I was just able to try shit, like whatever I wanted. I would imagine I'd go back and listen to those shows now, and it'd be like, I can't believe you were doing that. Like that was the great part about it, was I was just able to try stuff.
So what lessons did you learn from that, being in a less than desirable time slot by yourself? Who knows how many? Well, I'm sure you knew how many people were listening, but also it kind of, I think, gave you some freedom. So what did you really learn, and what experience did you gain from that?
I was able to create. I'm not going to say I was able to create this character, but because look, the things I say on my show, it's me. It's maybe an exaggerated version of me, which can work backwards sometimes, where I'm going to an event at school with my wife and she's like, so-and-so is really excited to meet you. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to be really disappointed because I'm not that much fun. And by
can
the
only
way,
be in character so often you can't be a character all day, every day.
Yeah,
right.
They're going to be really disappointed. And by the way, I don't want to talk about sports with them. So it's not going to go the way that they're envisioning, but I would do this show. So I was able to be like this exaggerated version of myself, but being that I'm doing it on my own, like as opposed to being with a partner and as opposed to being in a major day part, I was really able to find my footing and find, the way that I want to behave on the air. And I didn't have anyone stopping me, like if I was there with a partner, I'm giving up at least 50% of the airtime. And, if I want to go in one direction, but they're not necessarily reading me in that direction, like I didn't have to deal with any of that. So I literally was just able to do what I wanted and get comfortable. And so by the time I had the opportunity to do mornings, I was very confident. There would be times where I'd go in and do the show and, you get a little bit of imposter syndrome. And it's like, all right, is this going to be the show where they find out that I'm actually not that good? Like, this is it. This is going to be the show, right? This is the one that they're going to realize that I'm not good at this. And eventually I was able to get past that by the time I was in a major time slot where I'm like, yeah, it's, I'm pretty good at this.
So would you say that was in a way your maybe your medical school like residency in a way where you get to try it, learn, figure it out? Because look, lawyers too, we have imposter syndrome. It could be my 50th jury trial, my 100th jury trial, and still it happens sometimes where you're just like, am I really good enough? Can I really win this case?
Yep.
So we see it, and I'm sure a lot of people across industries see that as well. So it was yeah, I mean, I just think that's really amazing that you're able to do that and build it without fear of major repercussion too. You could try something new, a new bit, a new shtick.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If it falls flat, hey, at least there's not that many people it's not going to be a major thing.
I mean, I was never getting a call from the boss like, hey, don't do this anymore. Don't do this. Like, they left me alone. I was able to just do what I wanted from 7 to 10 p.m. every single night. It was great. And it was conducive to my lifestyle too, because at that point I had like a baby or a toddler, however old my first son was at the time. So yeah, like I got to be home during the day and do my thing there. And then I worked at night. Now, granted, I didn't get to see my wife as much because she's working during the day. I'm working at night. But as far as raising a toddler at that point, that was pretty convenient.
Right. And so now you get moved up to mornings, right? Morning. Now in radio, what's the best slot? Is it morning? Is it midday? Or is it the afternoon drive?
Yeah, so things have changed a little bit now because digital is so huge, like what I'm doing now with the podcasting, and people want to listen to everything on demand. But if we're talking at that point when I was moved to mornings and just in general, morning drive is the prime piece of real estate in radio. Mornings. Morning is where you want to be on. So when I was moved there to mornings, that was like, even though, we were on the air at 5:30 a.m., don't let anyone tell you that you eventually get used to that wake up, because it's not true. Waking up at 4 a.m. is always waking up at 4 a.m. It's always terrible. There's no getting used to it. But you were willing to do it because, yeah, I got the most prime piece of real estate here in South Florida sports radio. So it was worth it. Things aren't so like that anymore, especially for me now, because my name is established down here. So I can do my show at any time and people want to listen on demand anyway. But certainly in general, morning drive is the most prime piece of real estate. And
especially when you're doing sports. So what happens when the basketball game ends at midnight, right? Especially when we're talking finals or big games, right? NCAA tournament, the championship game, I think ended at about 11:45.
Yeah.
And then you obviously have to watch it.
Yeah, I used to hate that, where like the Rose Bowl is, well, the Rose Bowl is always played during the day, but I feel like the Sugar Bowl or the Orange Bowl, and I don't really care about the teams that are playing in it, but it's like I got to stay up because I got to know what's going on here. And the game ends at like midnight, and I got the wake up the next morning. Like that was always tough. I mean, heck, I did the Heat games all of those years that I was doing morning drive. I was doing the Heat radio, so there were plenty of nights where I'm ending after midnight. I mean, heck, when they won their championship in 2013, I got home from like the post championship party. I got home and had to change, put some water on my face, and go into the studio. Probably still feeling a little bit of a buzz from.
Were you popping bottles at Live?
Well, not at Live, but like you got the post celebration there at the arena. I had a great time, and then I went straight to do the show. So yeah, there were some late nights, and so. But when I wasn't doing mornings anymore, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it anymore at that point.
And how did you get that morning job? Did you really campaign for it? Was it just? Did they pick you right away? Was it a surprise? Walk us through that.
It was kind of a surprise because I remember there were people who were telling me you should apply for the morning job. They're looking for a host, and I was kind of like, I'm right here. They know where I'm at. They know that I would obviously want to host morning drive. I don't know if this was the right attitude or not, although it ended up working, but I was kind of like, I don't need to beg them for that job. I'm here. They come talk to me, And so they did come talk to me. And I was actually smiling, like, really? Like, it's a serious thing? You want me to try out for the mornings? Now, the way that it happened, I mean, I can't deny. If LeBron James never came down here, I never get that morning job. Okay. Like LeBron James and the Miami Heat, like that golden era, changed radio forever down here. It was such a big deal. There was so much money coming in with all the radio stations. just it was a boom for sports radio down here. So there was that, but also I had carved out this niche for myself where I remember when I was talking to, other people who'd worked in radio for a while, and we're talking about, how I want to present myself and what I want to do. And it was like everyone here, because you got to remember this is 2004 now, right?
Right.
The Heat had never won a championship yet at that point. The Marlins are the Marlins. Okay, fine. Right. The Panthers never won anything. This was a football town. It was a football town. Yeah,
only what, 5 years from Marino's last game, I think.
Maybe
about,
even about 5 years.
Something like that.
And so it was all football all the time. Everybody's a football guy. Jim Mandich, Joe Rose, Hank Goldberg. Like, they're all football guys. So I'm like, you know what? I love the Miami Heat. Is there anyone else here who's known as like the guy on the radio as the guy who loves the Heat? There was no one else like that. So I'm just, you know what? I'm going to lean into it, and I'm going to be that guy. And so I was that guy, and I developed that reputation. And so with the LeBron and the Heat are so good, it was probably, hey, we got this guy on at night who's pretty good. And they did, their, when they surveyed the people, they did like the polls.
Right.
They were polling people, and like Zaslow's getting high marks. They seem to like him, and the Heat are the biggest thing in town right now. And LeBron is here. Maybe we put the guy who everyone associates with the Heat on in Morning Drive. So yeah, like that was a major thing.
Well, so there you go. I mean, and I think the lessons to be learned from that are you're differentiating yourself within the sports radio niche even more. And again, things happen, an opportunity presents itself. And because you've identified yourself as something different, it was easy. You didn't really have to campaign or fight for it. It was in a way the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've learned throughout what we've done with building the Rawson Law Firm, and even just marketing in general, is you should celebrate being different or having that different niche, and whatever it is, it's attracting and repelling. So I'm sure the people who really wanted to hear those Marlins scores early on in the morning, they probably listened, but they weren't your biggest fans or supporters. When we're talking for those 4 years, it was all day, all night, Miami Heat, everything. It was all about you, all about the show.
And I was bombastic and young, had a lot of energy, and I'm also on the broadcast in the evenings. So it made all the sense in the world. So like I got that was really great for me, that whole era with LeBron. That worked out really well in my favor.
Well, and that's one thing I wanted to jump to next is, how did you get the job as a Miami Heat broadcaster?
Yeah,
was that before or after you had mornings?
It was before morning. So I had carved out this niche that like I'm the Heat guy. I love the Heat. Everyone's associating it with me. And our radio station, 790 The Ticket, at the start of the 2010-2011 season, so LeBron's first year. I mean, how about the timing, At the very start of that season, 790 The Ticket got the radio rights to the Heat. And so, all right, now they're going to put one of their guys on the broadcast as pregame, halftime, postgame host. I'm already doing evenings. I'm on at 7 p.m., So now every other night, either my show is on or it's a Heat game, and you're already the Heat guy. This is a no-brainer. Like, do you want this job? Yes, I do. Yeah, of course I want this job. So that kind of fell into my lap perfectly as well. And, I did that for 13 years.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so it just seems like there's a constant pattern with you of just things snowballing, right? If one thing didn't happen, then the next thing wouldn't have happened. And then the next thing wouldn't have happened.
And there's a bit of right place, right time.
Right. Right. Well, I think for everybody, that is, I mean, I'm sure you talk to some of the most famous people in the world, whether athletes, performers, successful people in business, it's the same thing. It's a lot of luck, right? Mm-hmm. Preparation meets opportunity, and just one thing versus another. Kind of also goes back to the butterfly effect in a way, right? Mm-hmm. If you change one thing, your whole life and the lives of a lot of people could be different and change.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure as well, there were other young Jonathan Zaslows, right, types who maybe didn't get that opportunity or that luck, or maybe they chose to niche themselves into hockey or baseball or whatever, or just weren't maybe a little afraid and dealt with some fear. So kudos to you for putting yourself out there and obviously, having
thanks.
the amazing career that you still have.
Thanks.
So what I want to do right now is we're going to take a little brief commercial break to hear from our sponsor, the Rawson Law Firm, and then we'll come back and I want to transition into the ZASLOW Show 2.0, what you've been doing since, and really just what's on the horizon for you.
When something bad happens, who do you turn to? In South Florida, the answer is the Rawson Law Firm, criminal and DUI defense for when bad things happen to good people. The Rawson Law Firm is a team of 6 award-winning criminal defense attorneys, including 2 board-certified criminal trial experts. They also have federal and white-collar divisions in the practice. Every day, the team's mission is simple: to help when bad things happen to good people so they can achieve their best future. To learn more about the team and how they can help you, connect on Facebook and Instagram at Rawson Law Firm. You'll also find helpful and entertaining videos on Rawson Law Firm YouTube channel. Just check this episode's description for all the ways you can connect.
Okay, and we're back from our commercial break with Jonathan Zaslow. So we were talking about your career, how you got in and really stepping up, up leveling every single few years into having this great morning show. I was a huge fan of listening to on my 45-minute drive to the courthouse every day between going to Palm Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale courts.
Were you a Zaslow and Joy guy or a Zaslow and Amber guy?
Well, I originally liked Hollywood. I liked Joy. Amber was great. I liked when she came on too. The lawyer. Fancy Amber. So that was good too. But I even remember back when it was you and before, who was it?
Before Joy.
Right, before Joy. Who
Hockman.
Before? Yes, when it was Zaslow and Hockman, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I know Hockman left, and then it was the Zaslow Show.
Yeah.
and Romberg and all that. So yeah, I listened to pretty much every iteration of the show.
That's awesome.
It was just, it was good. It just felt like, to me, the neighborhood South Florida show, because especially Le Batard was a South Florida guy for years and years, but by that time he was already a decade into being nationally famous, which was great. But it was really like you guys were just the people we'd hang out on the couch with.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of those mornings too. Specifically, working with Joy and I loved working with Romberg too, by the way. But working with Joy and working with Amber, because I was a total caveman before that. Like, I never would have wanted to hear a girl talk about sports, let alone work in sports with a female. And so, like, I totally evolved, and I'm a huge advocate for that, for women in sports and sports radio. And it was the most fun I had doing the show with those girls. So, like, I'm really proud of what those shows were.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I loved them as just the casual listener. So now you're there for 18 years.
Yeah.
So, right. You said one of the original 5 employees from, you knew nothing else
right
in your career.
Right.
And then the show or the station gets canceled or folds. So walk us through that process kind of mentally, and what'd you do about it? And, that's a huge, significant life change.
Yeah. So this was September. So what are we talking? It's, like 6 months ago, I think. And yeah, so after a show one day, I called to the program director's office. No big deal. That's happened before. And just straight up told me that, my contract's being terminated, blah, blah, blah. And, wouldn't tell me why or what's happening. Certainly wasn't anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like I got.
You must have been blindsided, though.
Oh yeah, totally blindsided. And so just, and the part that stinks about it, because I'm legitimately not mad. Like, I wasn't mad then. I'm not mad now. It's the way business goes. It's definitely not personal. And I'm really grateful for most everything that happened there. So I wasn't mad then. I'm not mad now. But the problem was, because it happened so fast and so out of nowhere, there were plenty of people and hey, organizations probably that think that I was fired. They're like, I did something wrong, for it to happen all of a sudden. So that part kind of stunk, where like I had to explain, and people had to take my word for it that nothing bad I didn't do anything wrong.
Was but then it everyone just one day, or did they tell you that and then you had a 2 week?
No, here's the paperwork. you could sign it right now, or you could have your attorney look over it for blah, blah, but like, this is right now. And you're leaving, and you're leaving right now.
So you're on the show Monday.
It was a Friday.
About everything. Oh, okay. So you're on the show
how it goes.
Friday.
You got to fire someone on a Friday, not a Monday, on a Friday.
Well, personally, I've learned that I actually like Monday mornings, because when you give them Friday, then they're stewing on it all weekend, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Okay.
They can't call, they can't try to get another job until Monday. So that's what I prefer from the employer side too, because I want to, just make it better for the employee. But okay, so Friday. So you wrapped up a big week, a good week, normal week, and you're probably already thinking about Monday. And then all of a sudden, boom, this happens, and then you're not there Monday.
Yeah. So I didn't know what the reason was, but I started to think what could possibly happen. And then everybody found out what was happening, because 3 days later on Monday, $7.90 the ticket was no more. All right. Now I was on $5.60 for the past year at that point, the previous 17 on $7.90, but $7.90 and $5.60 for the last 4 or 5 years were under the same ownership. All right. So they were sister stations. So I quickly realized what happened here before it was even announced on Monday was they were changing format on 790. It's now a Spanish talk station, news talk station. So they were getting rid of 790 the ticket, and they were combining the two radio stations into one, and I got squeezed out. That's what happened. And that's what, everyone was able to see on, the following week. But that was the only part that bothered me. Again, not mad then, not mad now. But the part that bothered me was it'd have been cool for me if there was some kind of announcement or a release.
Say goodbye to your fans, have a little bit of closure.
Yeah, because I called them, the Miami Heat called me, later on that day, and they felt that I must have been fired. I must have done something wrong. There was no heads up. There's no explanation. And that makes it seem like, Zaslow just get caught in Me Too? That's right. That's what it seems like, right. And it's nothing like that. So that
well, I didn't get a call from you, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. Right. So that part kind of stunk, but it was.
Well, because then mentally you're going to have to defend your name instead of just go process, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
So then walk me through that weekend. I know you said you weren't mad, but do you immediately go into next step mode, or are you just still like, hey, I need to take some time to process this?
Well, luckily I had people like once the word got out, an hour after my show ended that day, I'm obviously getting flooded with calls and texts and messages. And so I spoke to a lot of people that day, a lot of people in the business who I've known for many, many years, who really started to give me advice and make me feel better moving forward. Listen, it feels really shitty right now, obviously, and it is shitty, but you're totally going to be okay. This is what's going to happen now. And it's the only job I ever had. Right. Only job I ever had. 18 years being at one radio station is crazy. That never
raised
ever happens.
An infant to a toddler to a teenager to an adult in that 18 years.
That longevity is crazy in radio. So it's the only job I've ever had out of school. I got to put together my resume. I haven't put together a resume in 18 years. All right. So but I got calls from people in the business, George Sedano and Evan Cohen and Dan Lebitard. And so we're on the phone for Joy Taylor, and we're talking for a while, and they really started to give me good advice and make me feel better moving forward, because I'm starting to think, all right, am I done in radio? Because I am done in local radio here in Miami, because there's only one station now. They just got rid of me. So I am done in local radio in Miami.
And unless you want to go to Des Moines, right.
Right. So, and I don't want to pick up and move. I got a family, Right. So then I started to get the advice, you need to be doing a podcast. You could do your own thing. You have an audience, you have a following. You're not starting from scratch. You should. And so that's what I did for the next 3-4 weeks, is I was researching and reading how to do a podcast, because all I knew was how to walk into that studio and press the on button in the microphone. I didn't know how to do anything else. So I had to learn.
So who was the one that gave you that piece of advice and really steered you in that direction?
Yeah. A friend of mine named Evan Cohen, who's a talk show host on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Radio up there in New York, who I've known for a very long time because he used to do radio down here in West Palm Beach, and he's a good friend of mine now. He really gave me great advice in that regard, as far as you could do your own thing now, and so throughout and Levitard gave me great advice also. And those guys really made me feel good, made me feel better, about the situation moving forward. And so, yeah, like I said, I spent the next 3-4 weeks getting ZASLOW Show 2.0 prepared to a place where I think I could do this, because it's all me. I do all of it. I've never had to do sales before this, and I'm producing the show and I'm editing, and the hosting of the show part is actually the easiest part of my day. It's the rest of it.
You show up and you talk and you get into character, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk about that. So you, in a way, I don't want to use the word midlife crisis, but it could have become that.
It was scary. Yeah.
Right? It
was scary for my wife too, where I have a long-term contract, and it's like, all right, you're getting this, you're getting
safety,
this,
security, plans, family plans around the safety and security that you have.
Yeah. And we had to have some difficult conversations, of course. So that was scary. But once I launched ZASLOW Show 2.0, I had sponsors calling me immediately asking, and I was, and so my wife said, you need to come up with a media pack. Like, you need to come up with a sponsorship package here, because this is happening a little bit faster than both of us imagined it would. Like, I got to come up with packages. I don't know anything about this, So,
but a good thing, a good problem to have. So
I had to put some stuff together, and luckily I had a lot of support in that regard early on. And it was all right. This was difficult. We had difficult conversations. The last month has not been fun trying to figure out if this thing is going to work. And then it got to a place like a month or so in where I think I'm going to be able to make this work. I think there's enough support out there. I think there's enough interest out there. And I think this is the next step in, sports media, because it is like sports radio is not going away, but the digital part of sports media, that is growing and growing.
It's an evolution.
Yeah. And you're doing this podcast here. Like, podcasting is getting so huge. And then Blue Wire reached out to me, which is a major podcast network for sports. And they reached out to me immediately, and they wanted me to partner with them. So, which I am now on Blue Wire. So I got a lot of support early on, which really made me think, yeah, you know what? I think I can do this my way. And if I could do this my way, this is a really cool way to make a living.
Right, because then you don't have to worry about the bosses.
We went on a skiing trip a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have to put in for time off. Guess what? I'm going skiing.
Right.
This is it. This is what's happening.
Right, exactly. So is it really the one-man band right now?
Yeah.
So not just on the show, but behind the scenes. You're the producer, you're the director, you're your sound, your lighting.
I have a running gag at the end of every show. I thank everybody involved in putting together the program today. But it's only me. I'm the only one. I do everything.
And so what have you learned through this process? This kind of, again, ZASLOW Show 2.0.
What have I learned during this process? I don't know if it's about, I guess, like, I knew I had support. I mean, I've been down here long enough, but I think maybe I was surprised at how early a lot of the support came, in way of sponsorship and that kind of deal, where it's like, yeah, we want to be part of the show. Like, let's tell me what you got going on here. Let's do it right now. So that part, I thought that was going to be a lot harder. And it's still, we're still in the infancy stages. I mean, I'm only 6 months in. I hope to be so much bigger in a year from now or 6 months from now. But I think maybe I was surprised with that in the beginning at the support that I had early on. That was a pleasant surprise.
Well, one of the things that I've learned, and we see this a lot in the legal career, is that, especially the legal industry, is that everybody's so go, 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 go. And you can kind of forget about what's going on with others or even yourself. Mm-hmm. But when something negative happens, I've seen, especially in the legal field, where, especially in criminal law, where it can be contentious, there's so many people that are, when they see that break, are able and willing to stop and say, oh, wait a minute, how can I help? Right. And I think that's something that obviously happened with you, where major life event, and you're doing a good job, you're beloved by a lot of people, but then is it the character? Is it just because I'm in front of them? What happens when it goes away? And I think it's really rewarding to be able to have that community of people, colleagues, friends, family, and just listeners who are like, well, wait a minute. Oh yeah, no, like I want to help. What can we do? Let me stop my grind, my day, and really move forward to help somebody else. We see this in the legal industry all the time, which
that
is
was
really
super nice. You're right. That was super nice. And conversely, I've also realized, oh man, I'm surprised they haven't been, they didn't have anything for me, or, they're not interested in me. Like, wow, that's weird that I haven't heard from them, so it works the other way around also. And, people say, oh, when you're at your hardest time, that's when you find out who your real friends are. And so, yeah, there's like an element of truth to that for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So now you, like I said, you're pretty much the one man, the one man band here.
People seem, whenever I say that, people seem very impressed when I say, wait, you're doing all of it? Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Well, in the growing up through radio and learning and being involved, did you learn how to be a producer? Did you learn how to do the sound and the lighting?
That was my start. I mean, that's how you had to start. Like, I was hosting shows on the weekend, but my job was producing during the week. I produced the Boog Shambi show, who now, of course, is the play-by-play for the Chicago Cubs and also the voice of the World Series for ESPN. So, like, I was his producer, and that also helped me get my start on air, because I essentially morphed into being his sidekick. So I was on every day with him. But yeah, so I knew how to do all of that stuff 18 years ago. I haven't done any of that in that long. That part was behind me where, I don't want to be the producer anymore. I want to be the guy on the microphone. And I got to that place, so I didn't have to do that stuff anymore. So I used to know it. So part of the fact that I hadn't done it in forever, but also, look, almost 20 years, the industry has changed. 20 years ago, you weren't able to do this from your office, and I wasn't able to do this from my bedroom right now, So
even 10 years ago, it was very fringe, very fringe 10 years ago.
Yep.
Right. And now it's just, I think everything has changed. And you want to be on the tip of the evolution.
I wasn't
at that forefront.
I wasn't. Like, I was way behind the times. And that's why I needed like that month to really figure out, can I actually do this from home? Can I do everything? Do I have all the equipment? And I learned, I can.
A lot of Google searches, how to start a podcast.
Yeah. Yes. Right? Oh my God. It was a permanent tab on my browser, how to do a podcast. Yeah. Right. That's what it was.
Yeah. And so, all right. So now 6 months in, where do you think the show's headed? And you as the celebrity, as the character, as the career, right? What do you think's, the evolution going to be?
So I love what I'm doing, because essentially it's ZASLOW Show 2.0, meaning it's the same thing I've been doing. It literally is the same show that I've been doing all of these years. I'm just doing it in podcast form now. So everyone can still get the show the exact same way that they used to. I mean, what I would like is, as well as the show is going right now, social media, we live in a little bit of a vacuum on social media. Certainly Twitter can be a bit of an echo chamber, where we think, the thing that we're all talking about on Twitter, everybody knows about it. It's such a small minority of people who are in this conversation on Twitter. And so what I've learned,
politics, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
And so what I've learned is, I run into people all the time. Last night I was at the Panther game. Okay. A gentleman comes over. He was excited to see me. Zaslow, I used to listen to you every day. This guy is clearly a huge fan. Has no idea I got ZASLOW Show 2.0. Has no idea about the podcast. So like, the show's going well. I got a lot of people listening and all that. And I think it's actually a positive. There's still so much growth out there, because so many people still don't know what I'm doing. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because I got to get the word out to them, but it's a good thing because, there's so much growth that's still out there, because I just got to get my listeners to know where I'm at. So, that's the goal, is to make sure that I continue bringing people on board.
And are you the one managing that yourself, or have you outsourced any marketing?
Yeah, no,
or hired an agency?
I'm doing all that myself. And social media is a great platform. I mean, I got a lot of followers on Twitter and all that. So I pump out the promo clips every single day after I edit everything. So I'm putting it out there as best I can. So it continues to grow in that regard. So I'm going to keep doing, ZASLOW Show 2.0 like this. And the more sponsors I get, the longer I can make the show, and just it grows and grows and grows. I've also for years, like a passion project of mine has been, I've been dying to do a pro wrestling show, like for years. I love pro wrestling since I'm a little boy.
I know.
And I was begging my old employer, Odyssey, for years. Let's do it. And I just felt they were so, they were just missing the boat. It's WWE just sold for $9 billion. You tell me this isn't a big business? What are we doing here? And so when I was let go, it's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do the wrestling show now. And I'm just going to do it. And so I do that as well on Saturdays. I got a wrestling show called It's Still Real to Me. It's under the ZASLOW Show 2.0 banner. And we'll see where that takes me as well, because I'd like to do that on a national level, on a national stage. And I've gotten some opportunities with SiriusXM doing that as well. So I'm hoping that, grows into something.
But I think you should definitely go for that. So I was a huge wrestling fan growing up, all the way from the WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan, body slamming Andre the Giant, all through NWO years and really everything. And even in college. Stepped away for a little bit, and then in college it was The Rock, Triple H, and Stone Cold, everybody. And then from there, got away from it again. Went to see The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah, it was like 11 years ago, yeah.
About a year and a half ago, it was the night of SummerSlam, year and a half ago. And I said to my wife, I go, my son was 2, and I go, I just bought Peacock. And I'm going to get back into wrestling because I want to share that with my son. Yeah. And I started watching Roman Reigns and John Cena, and I just started crying. And to my wife, and I'm like, you don't understand that when I can share this with my son and now my boys, this is the best thing ever.
It's a thrill. It's a great thrill.
And I feel like a kid again. And even this past weekend watching, my wife's into it, so we're watching, and I thought Saturday and Sunday were fantastic.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
It was amazing. But I just kept telling her over and over again, this is a million times better than the Housewives. This is a million times better than any TV show. I'm like, nothing is better than this. This is the best thing ever.
I think it's the greatest entertainment in the world. I don't think anyone does entertainment the way that they do. And that's great if you can experience it with your kids. I remember the first time I took my older son, we went to a live show, to a house show. He was maybe 4 or almost 4. I'm like, let's see how he reacts to this. And he was into it right away. I'm like, wow, you like this. And so I totally get what you're going through with your young boys.
I think my wife's going to make me wait another year and a half until I let him watch it with me. At least the oldest, maybe we'll see.
The next time that I took him, he was I think he was 5. All right. And it was a pay-per-view down here in Miami. And I told my wife that afternoon, I had just got set up with tickets through the arena. And I told her, hey, listen, we're going to go. I'm going to take Corey. We're going to go tonight. I think he's 5. We're going to take him to, I'm going to take him to a big WWE show. All right. It's on pay-per-view. She's like, okay, fine. I go, it's a big show. Little did she know the show is called Hell in a Cell. So I did not tell her the name of the show, taking my 5-year-old to something called Hell in a Cell. But yes, I started taking him from that age, and he really loved it. And
one last thing I'll tell you on that. Last year, I'm at a mastermind conference with some of the country's best and biggest and brightest lawyers. And I'm there in Austin, and Southwest had these mass cancellations due to weather. But before my flight was canceled, I got rerouted to Dallas, and I hopped into Dallas, and I said, there's no way I'm making this flight. And it was Saturday. I'm in the airport for another 6 hours in Dallas. Finally, it gets canceled, and I can't fly out till Monday. So I'm sitting there going, everybody that I was with at this conference, this mastermind, was in Austin. I'm in Dallas by myself. I don't know anybody in Dallas. And I start going on Google, and I'm like, oh my God, WrestleMania is in Dallas. I'm going to Sunday Night WrestleMania. So I went last year, bought one ticket for myself, went by myself because I had nothing to do, totally out of character for me, but I had nothing else to do. Awesome. So I went there and I saw Stone Cold. I mean, it was, I got really good
great show.
And I was just like, this is another kind of random thing, once in a lifetime. I'm going. And it was to see Stone Cold there for that WrestleMania, Brock versus Roman Reigns. It was awesome.
Hey man, like it's a major passion project of mine, and so far that's going well for me too, where I get to do this. So I'm hoping that will take me somewhere as well.
Well, I'm definitely gonna listen to that as well. So, all right. So Zaslow, what parting words of advice, or just really anything that you can share for our listeners? The podcast is titled "Success in South Florida." Really, it's geared towards just anybody who wants to up level, who wants to be better, take that chance, and just continue to live a happy, successful life.
I think the advice I would give, this is really the advice I give when it comes to, just trying to get to that next step. And it's something that someone told me, and it's something that I used, really, up until now. I mean, now I'm working for myself, so I don't have to use this advice anymore. But I did when I, was working under an employer. I treat everything as a test. Everything that is asked of me is a test. I'm being tested, and say yes to everything. Like it didn't matter for me if I was 23 years old and I was a lowly producer asked to work a double shift here. Yes, I will do that. Or when I was hosting mornings, hey, I'm established and I'm doing morning drive. Hey, Zaslow, we got this appearance this weekend. It would really mean a lot if you would show, can you go? I could have said no for sure. Yep, right. I'll be there. Yes, I will. So I think you could probably use that in all different kinds of workplaces. And I think that's always the advice I go. I treat everything like it's a test, no matter how young you are or how established you are. If somebody's asking you to do something, I say yes to everything.
I love it. I think it's brilliant. And it's one of the things that I've done the same exact thing. Just yes, hustle, work hard, outwork everybody.
You're being tested. Every time someone's asking you, they're constantly testing you.
Right. Perfect. Love it. And I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this episode. And so, Zaslow, where can everybody find you? What's every single which way? Because I know this is a whole new reinvention or evolution, let's say, instead of reinvention. It's just again, it's Zaslow 2.0.
Yeah, it's the same show I've been doing, and it's everywhere you get your podcasts. It could be, Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart. I can't list them all. I'll be here all day. All right. But everywhere you get your podcast, you just search in ZASLOW Show 2.0. It's going to pop up right there. You hit subscribe. Boom. There you go. Got the YouTube channel as well. YouTube.com/@ZASLOW Show. And pretty much everything from the podcast is also uploaded onto the YouTube channel. But the podcast, my main focus, that's the most important thing. So everywhere you get your podcast. And of course, I'm on Twitter as well, @ZASLOW Show.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on my little show. I feel like
thank you for asking me. I was excited when I got the invite. Yes, right. I will definitely go on Adam Rawson's podcast. That will be fun.
Oh yeah. I think we had a great time. You definitely didn't disappoint.
Thank you.
So great. And anybody listening to this, hopefully if they have any questions, I'm sure they can DM you on Twitter. I know you're always engaged with your fans.
My DMs are open. People can slide right in, male or female. Slide right in.
Okay. All right. the wife's used to having the celebrity husband, so she'll deal with it. All right. Thanks so much, Zaslow. And hey, I'd love to maybe have you on a future episode again.
Yeah. Absolutely. That'll be awesome. Thanks, Adam.